I'm Joe Gigliotti, PhD, and I am your guide for this journey you are about to embark on. Now, to survive here in this generation, you're going to have to know a few things. Come along for the ride. I will show you how to live. Welcome to the latest edition of How to Live. I'm your host extraordinaire, professor, teacher, guide, educator, and PhD, Joe Gigliotti. I thank you for tuning in. Today's episode, folks, is all about how to succeed. Just how do we succeed in this big world of ours and be happy because of it? Well, our first lesson today, as I grab my special eraser here, is another how-to, and that's to learn to rely on yourself. Or, actually, we're going to erase this how-to, and we're going to shorten it up to self-reliance. Self-reliance.
Did you ever watch a baby being fed? You can see how completely we depend on others when we're very small. A baby just can't do much of anything for himself. Of course, as we grow older, most of us begin to strike out for ourselves. We begin to develop something called self-reliance. Often, though, we're restrained. We aren't given enough freedom to develop self-reliance. It's much easier to put Junior's snowsuit on him than wait for him to do it himself. And before long, Junior sees, too, that it's much easier to let others wait on him. He begins to like being dependent. Why take care of your own pet if someone else will do it for you? Why struggle with your lessons if you can get Dad to help? This is an easy way to get by. The trouble is, if you're not self-reliant, you'll never do any more than just get by.
Come in.
Now, I've been working on this problem. I wonder if you can help me.
Let's see. Look, why do you bother me with something simple like this? Something I'm paying you to decide. You'll never get ahead around here or anywhere else unless you can make some decisions of your own.
Yes, sir.
And that's what can happen when you don't learn self-reliance.
Mr. Carson, are you trying to tell me that I'm not self-reliant?
Why, Alan, I didn't say anything about you. But I find it often helps to paint that picture for students like you who come to me complaining that they don't feel they're accomplishing much. A little dose of self-reliance can do wonders. Any one of us could use a bit more than we have.
All right, Mr. Carson, I think I understand. Just how do you become self-reliant?
Oh, you want a quick, easy formula, huh? I'm afraid there isn't any. Learning to be self-reliant takes time and hard work.
It takes self-reliance, Mr. Carson.
It almost does. Here, this card may interest you. These are the steps to self-reliance as I see them.
Assume responsibility,
Be informed, know where you're going, make your own decisions. I'm not sure I understand.
Well, let's figure them out together. Sit down. First, assume responsibility. What do you suppose that means?
Well, assume responsibility. That means to take the blame for things that are my fault.
Uh-huh. Looking after your own schoolwork, planning your own time, depending upon yourself to be on time.
On time. Boy, I'd better assume responsibility for getting to my next class on time.
And Alan, why don't you assume the responsibility for figuring out what those other steps mean?
Yeah, I will. That's a good idea. Thanks, Mr. Carson. Assume responsibility. Do things for yourself. Not a bad idea at that. What's the next thing on this card? Be informed. Well, it's easy to see why you should be informed in class. You have to get facts and information in order to keep up. You have to know where to get information, too. But why be informed about other things besides schoolwork? Well, better get after the schoolwork now. Mom, do you think I look all right this way, or should I wear a tie?
Why, that depends on where you're going. Will you be expected to wear a tie?
Be informed.
What, dear?
Oh, nothing. Thanks, Mom. I'll figure it out myself. Let's see. We'll go to the movies and then to Ann's house for snacks. I might meet Ann's parents. Better wear a tie. Be informed. That can answer a lot of problems. Yeah, that's better.
Are you leaving right away, Alan?
No, Jack's coming by for me.
Say, there's something that I've been wanting to ask you. Have you decided on what courses you're going to take next year?
Oh, no. I don't know what to take, Dad. Jack's going to take American literature, and Eddie signed up for speech class. But I don't know what I want to take.
Well, I hope you don't let your friends lead you around this way. What will you get out of these courses? What do you want to get out of them? If you know what you want in life...
Know where you're going. Make your own decisions.
What in the world are you talking about?
Oh, well, I sort of want to develop a little self-reliance. Mr. Carson gave me this.
Self-reliance, huh? Well, that's a good thing. Are these from Emerson?
Emerson?
Sure. Haven't you read Emerson's essay on self-reliance? I think we have a copy of it here somewhere.
Well, I think you'll find it on the third shelf.
Thanks, dear. The foundation of our way of life, someone once called it. Oh, yes, here it is. Self-Reliance by Ralph Waldo Emerson. I learned a lot from this essay when I was your age.
Thanks, Dad. I'll read it.
You may have to if you take American literature.
I think I'll read it no matter what course I take. What about those courses, Dad? Will you give me a little time to think? I have a lot of work to do before I make any decisions.
Sure.
Oh, there's Jack. Bye, Mom. Dad.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Now, you may think that's the end of Alan's story. Actually, it's only the beginning. Alan learned very quickly the meaning of the steps to self-reliance, but it takes quite a long while to make self-reliance a habit. I watched Alan for several months. I saw how he assumed responsibility. For example, he took a job on the student forum and worked at it seriously. I saw how he kept himself informed. He studied hard. He read more than just the assignments. He talked to people and listened to them. He wanted to be informed, and he never missed a chance to learn something. I saw how Alan found where he was going. He came to me sometimes for advice, but he never asked me to decide for him. He thought seriously about his goals, his purposes. I saw how he learned to make decisions for himself, always on the basis of the best information he could get. And then just the other day, at another student forum meeting, I saw Alan show how really self-reliant he has become. The students were quite upset about our parking situation around the school, but no one was able to offer much of a solution. That is, until Alan spoke up.
Just what is the problem? Those who drive to school can't keep on parking in the street. I understand it's too narrow. That's why we've been getting tickets there. We'll just have to find another place for our cars and motorbikes. I've been looking into this. You know, since we got the new tennis courts, maybe the old ones just north of the school building could easily be made into a parking space. We could do what little work there is, and we could ask the principal for his approval.
Yeah, but who?
Will you ask him?
Well, sure, if you want me to. I'll take on that responsibility.
Okay, you can get in contact with him next month's meeting. Okay.
Yes, sir. That was self-reliance, the kind we can all use. It's hard work to become self-reliant, but these are the steps. Assume responsibility, be informed, know where you are going, make your own decisions. Alan learned to do it, and he's certainly a happier and a better person for it. Will you develop the habit of self-reliance?
Hello, and welcome back. Now that you've learned all about self-reliance, it's time to go to a no-no. And our next lesson here in how to be successful is to learn how to not be self-conscious. Don't be self-conscious.
It began the night of our January school play. Not my self-consciousness, but my story of overcoming it. We had a party on stage after the play. Oh, I wasn't in the cast. Not me. I was on the stage crew. But I'll tell you about that later. The point is, somebody grabbed a spotlight and started a sort of game. When the light stopped on you, you'd have to get up and make a speech. Jack sure did all right, but why not? He was the star of the play. That sort of thing was easy for him. Of course, I wanted to do well, too. I wanted to shine. I started planning what I was going to say. I'd wow 'em. And then it happened. There I was, in the spotlight, and I felt uncomfortable, and awkward, and different, and they were all watching me, and laughing. At what? At me? Well, what was I doing wrong? Did I look funny? Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, I guess I'll just shut up and sit down. It was terrible. I knew it.
Hey, that was neat, Marty, but don't be so self-conscious about it.
Self-conscious. That was my trouble. That was why I felt so queer. And I began to remember other times I'd had the same feeling. I remembered giving a book report in class. It was exactly the same. Yes, as if there were a spotlight on me, and everybody was watching me. Oh, I managed to get through my report all right, but I was miserable. And then I remembered the first time I asked June for a date. I knew just what I wanted to say, but when it came right down to it, yeah, I felt spotlighted again. And the words didn't want to come out. And she was staring at... Was my face broken out again? And I remembered coming to try out for this play. Boy, I really wanted a part. I felt sure I could get one, too, until... I'm not going to try out. I'd like to work on stage crew. The stage crew. Well, it was fun, but it wasn't what I wanted. Yeah, the night of the party, Jack said it, and I knew he was right. Self-conscious. I felt I could never get up in front of the class, or ask a girl for a date, or do anything in public again. Yeah, I was a self-conscious guy. I couldn't even stay out the party.
Yeah? Yeah. Coach has shown us this little block. Come in like this and up. Oh, hi, Marty.
Oh, hi, Jack. Okay.
Say, what happened to you last night?
I didn't feel so good.
Oh, too bad. Boy, wasn't that something when they had that spotlight on us? Gee, I was so scared my knees were knocking. I could hardly talk.
You were self-conscious?
Sure, I guess everybody is sometimes.
Everybody? I guess that's right.
Say, listen, I've got to get to class. Sure hope you're feeling better.
All right, so long.
So long.
Everybody's self-conscious. After that, I began to notice other people. Bill, for example. He always seems relaxed and comfortable. But a couple of years back, I can remember what a self-conscious guy he was. He really has overcome it. Then there's Anne. She likes to play for people. Watching her, I remembered 2 or 3 years ago, and how terribly self-conscious she was if anyone watched her play. She certainly has changed. Well, you can get over being self-conscious. The question is, how? It wasn't long after when I made a big discovery about how to overcome self-consciousness. I was helping Jack with his ping pong game. He hadn't been playing very long, but he was learning and doing right well. Then Hank and Bill came in and hung around watching. And suddenly it seemed as though Jack was feeling on the spot. He started fumbling, and then he quit. Now, what made Jack suddenly feel self-conscious? Was it because he didn't play well? I wasn't self-conscious about ping pong. Why the difference? And then, well, I had to talk to Jack. I had an idea about self-consciousness. Everybody wants to show up really well. You want people to think you're pretty good. But then you start thinking about yourself, how everybody's watching you, what you must look like to them.
And then you make a mess of it.
Sometimes, but usually you don't. You just think you do. But look, if you can do something really well, then you're more confident. Self-consciousness doesn't bother you quite so much. If I could do more things well. You gonna try out for the class play in April?
I guess so.
Me too. Only this time I'm really gonna try out.
Swell.
All right, Sue. Marty Hanson? Hello, Marty. Are you going to help us out in the stage crew again this time?
Well, thanks. But this time I really want a part in the play.
Why, that's fine. Why don't you go ahead and read some lines for me?
When I am in trouble, eating is the only thing that consoles me. Indeed, when I am in really great trouble, as anyone who knows me, Boy, I really had to fight self-consciousness then, but I knew that was the only way I'd ever be good enough. You know, I got a part. I practiced a lot. I figured it was like the ping pong deal. If I could become skillful, I wouldn't be so scared of it. It was easy alone. And finally, I got so it wasn't too hard with my family. I'd forget about myself and just think about doing it well. At rehearsal with the other kids, I could try another idea, turning the spotlight onto someone else, thinking about other people and telling myself I wasn't so important. And it worked part of the time. But when it came my turn to speak, then where could I turn the spotlight?
While we're stopped, let me remind you all of something. You know, as we go through these themes, you should try to keep the whole situation in mind. Because, you know, after all, what other people are thinking and doing is just as important as what you're doing. Will you take those lines again?
Keep the whole situation in mind. There was an idea. Would it work? At the present moment, I'm eating muffins because I'm unhappy. Besides, I am particularly fond of muffins.
Well, I must eat them.
They were laughing, but now I knew they were laughing at the situation, not at me. Yes, it really helps to develop skills so I can concentrate on what I'm doing instead of how I'm doing it. It helps to think of other people and remember that I'm not so important. And it helps to turn that spotlight on the whole situation. Then I can almost forget to be self-conscious. Almost is right. I'm getting closer now, because I'm getting more and more practice in turning the spotlight onto the situation as a whole. It helps in class, too. When I feel self-conscious, I remember that the class isn't interested in me, but in what I have to say. Well, there it is. I still feel a little self-conscious at times. But by concentrating on others, by doing my best to make the whole situation easier, I overcome my own self-consciousness. It helps me enjoy being with people. And I think it helps people enjoy being with me. It could help you, too, couldn't it?
Hello and welcome back. Now that you've learned that lesson about not being self-conscious, believe in yourself. It's time for our next lesson here, and part of being successful is just is having goals and knowing what you want. So that's why this lesson is called Know What You Want. Know what you want.
You might say our ideals are like headlights. They light the way ahead. Without them, we are lost, unable to make decisions. With them, we have a good chance of success. We need clear, strong ideals. Let's consider popularity, the ideal of Jeffrey Moore.
If I only had a car like that, I'd really be popular. Everybody'd want to be friends with me then. Why, I'd be the most popular guy at school. Nothing like a flashy car to make a big impression. How about that, Stu? I know one thing. June would sure look good driving with me in a car like that. June knows how to dress. Not the best-looking girl in town, but, well, everybody likes her. And going around with her is bound to make me popular, too. Oh, good old Mother and Dad. Now, if Dad keeps his promise about letting me have the car tonight... Oh, but he will. Dad never breaks a promise. Yes, sir? Folks you can be proud of. That's one sure thing you need to become popular, huh, Stu? I'll bet Ed Anderson's proud of his folks. Gee, I wish I had his popularity. If people'd only crowd around me like that. Maybe if I kept his photo there and I tried to imitate him, Well, then I'd be popular, too. The only difference between us is that, well, he's captain of the football team. Well, someday I'm going to be just as popular. Pretty snappy stuff. Well, so's mine. Let's see. Shirt right, tie right, and coat right. Well, you can't be popular unless you know how to dress. Boy, with this new sport coat in June, I'll be the hit of the class party. Well, Dad, I'm ready. How about the car keys?
Oh, Jeff, Grandma fell and hurt herself. Now we'll have to go and stay with her a few days. Are you ready, Mother?
Here I am, ready to go.
Well, Dad, you promised that I could have the car.
I'm sorry, Jeff. This is an emergency. You'll just have to use the bus tonight.
It'll take a couple of hours to drive down. Dad won't be back in time.
Dad, you're not going back on the promise, are you?
Jeff, you can't have the car, and that's final.
Well, how can I take Julie out in the bus? What do my friends say?
I'm sorry, Jeff.
Don't stay out too late. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Yeah, but you promised not. They just don't want me to be popular, that's all. How can you take a girl out without a car? You'd keep your word, wouldn't you, Stu? Oh, I'll never be popular, I guess. Well, there's only one thing to do.
Hello?
Hello, June. This is Jeff.
Oh, hi, Jeff. I'm almost ready.
Listen, June, we can't go tonight. I don't feel well. I'm sick, see, and it happened all of a sudden, and I've got to go to bed.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff. Of course we won't go if you're not feeling well. I hope you feel better soon. Goodbye.
If ideals are weak or poor or vague, difficulties become frustrations. Judgments are hard. The road ahead is lost. Too bad when it seems your parents let you down, interfere with an ideal. But what about an ideal like popularity?
But isn't the freshman having a night out? Stag. Hey, don't you guys ever have dates?
Maybe if we had fancy clothes like you, we could go out.
Yeah, that's a pretty sharp jacket he's wearing. You're right. The trouble with you guys is you don't know how to dress. If you wore the right clothes, you'd be popular, too.
You were popular?
You didn't know?
Tell me, if you're so popular, how come you're not at your class party tonight? Tell us. A new bow tie or something, huh? Oh, that's shame.
That's really bad.
Oh, poor boy.
A quart of vanilla, please. You're quite ill, I see.
Now listen, June, I can explain about that.
With another lie, I suppose.
Well, I had to come down here to get some medicine.
What medicine?
Well,
I can't understand the way you're acting, Jeff.
all right, June, it was this way. I couldn't get the car for tonight, and, well, I didn't want to take you on the bus. What would people think?
Really, Jeff? We could perfectly well have gone on the bus. Lots of people did. You're not making yourself very popular.
Popular? Well, that's just it. How can you be popular without a car?
You don't know what the word popular means.
Sick? Now you really will be sick. She sure told you off. Boy, you're washed up.
This is a pretty nice looking coat to be left on the stairs.
Clothes don't make you popular.
You didn't go to the party? I wanted to explain about breaking my promise. It was an emergency.
Cars don't make you popular either.
I see. You know, son, I've always looked on keeping promises as a sort of an ideal. But I've begun to realize that it isn't possible all the time. I figured you knew that sometimes even promises can't be kept.
Oh, what difference does it make?
It seemed to make a lot of difference.
Well, if you can't be popular with the right clothes and a car, how can you be popular?
If you can't keep your promises to your own son, can you be an honest man?
Dad, I'm all mixed up. What can I do now?
Jeff, I was mixed up tonight, too. When I was driving your mother, I kept thinking about you and about the promise you thought I would keep. I wondered how I could face you. I wondered what you would think of me. You see what happens when we have ideals that aren't clear and sound?
But why?
Well, Jeff, think about some other ideals. Some big ideals that all men share. What about freedom? Isn't that an ideal we can all agree on? But what does it mean? Are you free to rob or free to kill? No. We need a clearly defined ideal, such as freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of religion. Even these may need to be clearer, for ideals must be clear, and when they are, how much they can lead us to achieve. Men with clear ideals have looked at prairies and transformed them into great cities. Clear ideals have seen energy in rivers and put that energy to work. Only clear ideals could lift science from simple, crude experiments to the knowledge that serves mankind. And clear, compelling religious ideals have lifted men from primitive tribes to great, rich, full living. So you see, when ideals are sound and clear, they can help us to do some wonderful things. Even simple ideals, such as keeping promises or being popular, help us in the tremendously important business of getting along with other people. They help put things in the right perspective, and they serve as a challenge for us always to do better.
I think I see. About the car, it's okay. How's Grandma?
Grandmother's going to be all right.
Dad, don't worry about me. I'll work out my ideal.
Good night, Jeff.
You know something, Stu? I wanted to be popular. But I never asked myself what it means. No, I've got to be clear about it. I've got to figure it out. Just what do I mean by popularity? And why is Ed Anderson so popular? Let's see. I've never thought about it, but he doesn't wear fancy clothes. Maybe it's because he's captain of the team. No, it isn't that alone. And he hasn't got a car either. He uses the bus. No, it's something else that makes Ed popular. And Mom and Dad, why are they popular? Loyalty, sincerity, and good sportsmanship. Now I'm beginning to understand. To be popular, I've got to have ideals like honesty and good sportsmanship and sincerity and loyalty. Those are ideals that I've really got to work for. How about that, Stu, old boy? To be honest and sincere, I've got to write June an apology. It won't be easy, but, well, I know what to do now. She was right. I did know what popularity meant.
Jeff is on the right track now. He has found the road. Yes, the way out of our difficulties is easier to find if our ideals, like headlights, are strong and clear. They lead us to a rich, full, and happy life. Can you depend on your ideals for the road that lies ahead?
Hello and welcome back. Now that you know what you want, you're one step closer to being successful. Our next lesson here, well, let's say it involves an animal, and it's another don't. We want you to be brave, to not be afraid, because if you're afraid, tentative, shy, you won't be successful. So for this next lesson, another don't, it is don't be a scaredy cat. Don't be a scaredy cat. Meow.
This is the day of tryouts for our annual swimming meet at the Lawndale Community Club. And it's a special day for one of the boys because he's proving something that happens all the time. He's proving that you can overcome a handicap so completely that you climb right to the top. Oh, Bill hasn't won yet, but he has qualified to swim in the finals. So it is a special day for him. It's rather a special day for me, too. You see, I've been coaching Bill, and I feel I had a part in making him one of our best swimmers. But I said something about a handicap, didn't I? Well, there was a time when Bill was severely handicapped as far as swimming goes. He used to visit the pool once in a while, but it was the same story every time. He really wanted to learn to swim. But one thing was certain. He'd never learn that way. Yes, Bill had a handicap. That handicap was fear. At first, Bill's friends used to ask him to join in the fun.
Hey, Bill, come on in.
But no, there was no use. They forgot Bill was there. But Bill couldn't forget himself. He kept thinking and worrying.
Think I'm a coward, do they? Well, maybe I am. If only I weren't so afraid. I could learn to swim. I could have fun like that.
Jim, man, help her!
Help! Hey, what's the matter?
It's Janet.
Oh, it's Janet!
What is it? She fell.
Janet, are you all right?
Are you all right?
What's the matter, Janet? Fall out the window.
I'm sure you're okay.
Sure. I'm a coward. Afraid of the water.
afraid to jump in and help somebody. Well, they're not cowards. Ed or Jim, or Janet either. They say if you fall off a horse, you should get right back on as soon as you can, so you won't be afraid of horses. I guess she's not going to let this thing worry her. Well, I'll never get over being afraid in the water, no matter how often I get in the pool. What's the use? Just wasting my time trying to swim. I'll never learn. I'll never get over being afraid. Huh.
Giving up?
Yeah, giving up, that's right.
You're Bill Brent, aren't you? My name's Barker. I'm the swimming instructor around here. I've noticed you out there. You really want to swim, don't you?
Oh, it's no use, Mr. Barker. I'm afraid. I'm a coward.
You're the first coward I've ever known that had courage enough to admit it.
Huh?
Look, I'll agree you're afraid of the water. But does that make you a coward? Most people are afraid of something. Most folks are afraid of wild animals. A lot of people are afraid of speeding cars. I am. I always get out of the way when I see one coming toward me. I guess that makes me a coward, too.
That's different. That makes sense. But being afraid of water, it's silly.
It's easy to say a fear is silly, but that doesn't necessarily help. You know, you're letting yourself get in the habit of being afraid.
In the habit?
Yes. Hey, maybe you know my kid sister. She used to be afraid of dogs. She's getting over it now, but once it was quite serious. We don't really know how that fear started, but it might well have happened this way. When my sister was very small, the people next door had a large dog. He was a rough, noisy dog, too. Kept fenced in the yard all the time. Perhaps sometime in her play, Sis came up quite close to the fence. When the dog came running toward her, she was naturally startled. And, well, if that happened several times, you can see how she might have gotten the habit of being afraid of dogs. And that habit stayed with her long after she forgot all about the first dog that frightened her.
You said she was getting over it now. How did she do that?
How did she? Well, she knew it was an unreasonable fear, and she wanted to overcome it. So she and I worked together. We figured she should know dogs. We felt she should make friends with dogs. It wasn't easy for her. We took it very slow. My knowing that a dog wouldn't hurt her wasn't enough. She had to know. She had to have experience in handling dogs, caring for them. There was a cute little puppy. How could she be afraid of him? How could she help loving the little fella? Who wouldn't come closer to a big dog for a chance to play with a puppy a little longer? Who could remain afraid of the pup's mother very long? Certainly not my sister. It takes experience, knowledge, determination, and insight to overcome fears that are not rational. But it can be done.
Maybe some people can do it, but I'm too much of a coward.
If you keep calling yourself a coward, you're apt to start acting like one. Say, didn't I see your picture in the paper the other day? Something about a bicycle ordinance, wasn't it?
Yes, I just happen to have a copy right here.
One copy. Oh, yes, here we are. You deserve to be proud of yourself. Student defends bicycle ordinance. The paper doesn't give many details. Tell me about this.
Well, you know about the new ordinance to keep bicycles off the sidewalks.
Mm-hmm.
It's really an important safety measure. But a lot of the kids didn't like it, and they held this protest meeting. Some of us thought it was a good ordinance, and I went to the meeting and said so. It seems to me, in the interest of safety, we ought to accept this rule. The least we can do is give it a fair trial.
Ah, pipe down. Do you have a bicycle?
Yes, I have a bike, but when I'm walking on a sidewalk, I like to feel safe. So I'm willing to ride my bike in the street.
Good going, Bill. You told him.
Do you agree with me?
Sure.
Oh, get up and say so.
No.
Go ahead.
No.
Come on. I tried to get Ed to speak up, but he wouldn't. And the kids are still all steamed up. I don't know.
The courage of your convictions.
Huh?
About Ed. You said he wouldn't speak up even though he agreed with you. Would you say he was afraid?
Afraid? Well, I guess. But that can't be. Ed helped Janet today when she stumbled into the water. He's no coward.
The other day you stood up for what you thought right against opposition, so you're no coward. You showed what we call moral courage.
Well, maybe. Maybe I'm just a part-time coward in the water.
That's where I'd like to help. Do you want to learn how to swim?
Well,
Come on, then. Let's get started. That day, Bill started overcoming his fear. He was in the habit of being afraid. So the important thing was to get him in the habit of not being afraid. Bill learned gradually, over a period of several weeks, some of the skills he would need for swimming. As he became more skillful in the water, he also became more confident. He was ready to try actions that would have frightened him before, because now he knew he could always right himself in the water, and so needn't fear drowning. Then, as he learned more, Bill gradually eased into deeper water. If he could swim across the shallow end of the pool, he could swim across the deep end. And, of course, the better he could swim, the less Bill feared the water. And he overcame his habit of fear. He became confident. And so today is a special day for Bill. He did overcome his handicap, and very well, too. Whether or not he wins in the swimming meet, he has proved to himself and to others that he is not a coward. Well, we all have little fears which hamper us. We should take a tip from Bill. Our lives can be richer, happier, if we overcome our fears.
Hello, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that last segment. Now that you've learned to not be a scaredy cat, meow, it's time for our next lesson here. As we race our handy-dandy chalkboard here. And that is all about developing a good routine and just a good way of going about your life on a daily basis. That really helps to be successful. So this next lesson is all about making good habits. Making good habits.
It's a little late for tears, isn't it, Barbara? Even though you didn't know it was going to happen today, you've still had your whole life to prepare for it. Of course, you've gotten into the habit of not being prepared. And now it's a little late, isn't it? You're a creature of habit, Barbara. We all are. Unfortunately, not all of your habits are good ones. This was how your day started. Started wrong. Your neighbor, Helen, is a creature of habit, too. But she got up when the alarm went off. Because, Barbara, that's what she really had in mind when she said it. Helen has trained herself to know what she's going to do, in what order, and where the things are to do it with. She really doesn't have to think about it. She already knows what clothes she's going to wear today. As it turned out, it was a special day for Helen, too. But she makes a habit of being ready for special days. She starts by having a place for things and keeping them there. She uses taste in selecting her clothes. But more than that, she keeps them clean and mended. And she's able to match the right skirt with the right sweater. This was going to be a special day for you, but you hadn't gotten very far with your preparations for it. Was your whole family asleep? No, your mother was up. Had been for an hour.
Barbara! Barbara, get up. You'll be late for school.
Does she have to do this every morning, Barbara?
Barbara, do you hear me?
If your mother stopped acting like a second alarm clock for even one day, you'd probably think it was a dirty...
Pete's sake, I hear you. I'm up.
You didn't seem at all appreciative. Even if you're not really well-mannered, you could make a habit of being civil. And you weren't really up when your mother called you. Little lies are such a firm foundation for big ones. You started your day with no plan at all. Looking for your hairbrush? Can't remember where you left it? You forgot other important things today. You meant to fix that collar, but you've gotten into the habit of putting things off. There are so many things you plan to do this coming Saturday or the one after that. Let's see. You found the algebra notebook you lost. The ski pants you meant to put away in the chest. The afghan you started to knit last summer. And, oh yes, the sweater you were looking for. You decided to cover the spots on your sweater with a scarf. You often do that. But you can't forget that the spots are there. If you had a habit plan for your mornings, you might get off to a decent start someday. Helen has a habit plan, and it includes a healthy breakfast and a pleasant word with her parents. All three always enjoyed Mr. Elliott's comments on the news. It was time to get started for office and school. Helen's dad would drop her on the way downtown. And who could ask for a nicer way to go to school? Your brother was ready, but your father couldn't wait for you. Or you could have driven to school with him. He used to enjoy that drive, too. Your eggs were cold this morning. But you had no time to be picky about food or to think about your diet. No time for milk or even to say good morning. No time for manners. You made a pretty picture with your rumpled skirt, your spotted sweater, and your hair in a tizzy. As usual, all your neighbors knew how late it was when you went by at your regular dog trot. You were late for school this morning, but then you're almost always late, and you're guilty about it. More so because your lateness is habitual. You're in a rut with a bad habit, and the longer you stick with the habit, the deeper the rut gets. When you saw Helen, you suddenly felt envious. But more than that, you felt a distaste for your sloppy ways. And you knew you could do something about them if only... That wasn't a happy thought, was it? Or do you always drum with your fingers? You were just chatting away with Helen when it happened, when the day suddenly turned into something special. You've never been friends with Ann Tolliver, and you've always wanted to be.
Hi. Hi. Some of the crowd's coming over to my house right after school. Do you think you two could make it?
Well, that'd be fun, Ann. I'd love to.
Swell. Well, what do you say, Bobby? Sure, thanks. Okay, see you later.
Bye. That'll be fun, won't it?
Oh, yes.
Oh, bye.
Each school year sees new groups forming, old ones reforming. Yours is a changing social world, and the opportunities to be part of it must be taken when they arise. You knew this afternoon that you were making a bad impression, and you knew how easy it is not to be invited again, and how quickly you can be left out of the crowd. You were embarrassed by your messy hair and the fingernails you had neglected to clean. You worried about the spots on your sweater, Barbara. But what really showed up were your habits. You didn't find it very pleasant comparing yourself with the others.
What? I said, what do you think?
You weren't listening. You seldom do. It's a habit of yours.
I guess I don't know much about it.
They were talking about a popular book. All your friends were interested, but you never got into the habit of reading books.
The whole problem was that Claudia wanted to be free to do all the things she'd never been allowed to do.
Well, that was her whole reason for leaving her family.
And then she married back to the same kind of life.
Well, that's why I think the book's stupid. Why couldn't she have seen...
No, you added nothing to that conversation.
The trouble with me is getting started. I always have to force myself to do new things.
I'm the same way. I didn't even want to go to my first concert because I thought it would be too long-haired. Oh, but the music is wonderful. I'm going to go to the whole series.
My mother had to drag me to the museum. But they have a wonderful costume exhibit there. I got an idea for a new dress.
Oh, what kind?
You've never taken an interest in music or politics or art.
We always go to the beach. Every year we take a cottage at Essex.
You've only been once.
There's wonderful swimming and lots of boys. It's quiet where we go. And there are tennis courts at the hotels, too, and dances every weekend. It sounds grand. And it's just a short way to the city.
You couldn't help interrupting, could you? And you couldn't help stretching truth like a rubber band. We all like to talk about ourselves. But a soliloquy isn't a conversation. First, you didn't talk at all, and then you did all the talking. Conversation is a two-way street. But for you, it's either one way or a dead end.
Goodbye. I hope you had a very nice time.
Thank you. I did. Bye.
See you tomorrow. Goodbye, Barbara. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Thank you. Bye.
In all society, at all ages, we know that people are going to talk about other people. Unfortunately, our faults are often more discussed than our good points. And sometimes our good points are completely hidden by our faults. But perhaps worst of all is our own disappointment in ourselves and the remarks we imagine our friends are making about us.
Gee, I think dirty fingernails are horrible.
Maybe she felt shy. A spotted sweater isn't shyness. And bad manners are still bad manners no matter what you call them.
Now, in your own room, the memory of this day stands between you and your whole pattern of behavior. Where will you start? Your complexion? That starts with soap and water and goes on to regular meals and the right kind of food. Your hair? It's more than just a shampoo when you happen to think of it. Your clothes? Not just cleaned when your mother takes them away from you, but a system of cleaning. For all a pattern, a network of habits. Helen checks her clothes for cleaning when she takes them off. That's a habit of hers. This morning, Helen took her skirt from the front of the closet. Tonight, she hangs it in the back. That's a habit, too. One on the plus side. It gives clothes a chance to hang, rests the fabric. Tonight, Helen makes a plan for tomorrow. A what to wear, what to do, when to do it design for living. Helen has the habit of being ready for special days. Good habits save time and energy and give us greater freedom to do those extra things we want to do. Yes, a good start. But these improvements are not yet habits, not by any means. They must happen again and again until they fit into the fabric of the days without conscious thought. If you try, really try, you can root out the poor, accidental habits and establish in their place the good habits approved by custom, accepted by society. Across the street, Helen's light goes out. Reasonable hours are part of her pattern. And you, Barbara? Well, you've had a hard day. But staying awake to think about it won't help it any. Go to bed early for a change. Give yourself a good start on a new day.
Welcome back. Now that you have those good habits all planned out and hopefully executed on a day-to-day basis, it's time for our last lesson here in how to be successful. And our last lesson here is to not do spur-of-the-moment type of things. Not to think you're going to be successful if you just, oh, I want to do this right now. It usually doesn't work. So that's why this next lesson is teaching you how to plan ahead. Plan ahead.
Who are the people who are most likely to succeed? What's the secret of their success? Let's see if Nick Baxter can help us find the answer.
Say, Nick, what are you doing?
Nothing.
Aren't you going to finish your table?
Not right now.
You mean to say you're going to stay after school to loaf again?
Uh-huh.
Well, what are you doing? Oh, reading that article I wrote for the paper. Pretty good, huh?
Why don't I ever get chosen for something like this? Most likely to succeed. Huh. What have these kids got that I haven't got anyway?
So that's it. Did you read the rest of the article? You know, I interviewed these kids and, well, it was really interesting what they had to tell me.
How do I get high grades? I work for them. I'm not going to school just to put in time. I want to be somebody.
How do I find time for so many activities? I plan for them. I like to make the most of my spare time.
Why do I have so many friends? Well, I like people. I want them to like me. I want to learn how to get along with them better. That'll always be important to me. Now, does that help answer your question?
I still don't exactly see why they were picked.
Well, it seems to me they're all saying pretty much the same thing. To succeed in something, you have to have a purpose and make plans for reaching it and work at it all the time.
Sounds crazy to me.
Well, what are you doing after graduation?
I'll think about that later.
Are you planning what you'll be doing next semester?
Good night, no. Why should I?
Well, what about next month or next week?
I don't know. What's the idea?
Well, what are you doing this afternoon?
Nothing. There's nothing to do. If I go home, there'll be homework or work to do around the house or something. I'm tired of it.
Brother, you do need a purpose and a plan. You should be working on your future right now. Well, have you ever figured out what you'll be like in a few years? Why don't you look ahead?
Don't preach at me. Purpose. Plans. Looking ahead. As if you could tell what you'll be like in a few years. Or can you? What about Ed? He'll probably wind up as a scientist. That's what he's aiming for. And he studies hard. Maybe you can figure that Jean will be pretty active in clubs and things, because she's pretty active now. And, well, Terry would sure do all right in politics with that knack he has of making friends. Well, I suppose you can figure out where some people are headed for. But, say, Don.
Yeah?
Suppose you could look ahead like you said. Do you suppose you could figure what I'm going to be like in a few years?
That's not hard. Judging by the way you're going, I'd vote you least likely to succeed. A guy without any purpose or any plan. You're liable to end up just being a drifter. Maybe even a bum.
A bum? That could be me. Nothing but a bum. What am I saying? That won't happen to me. There's nothing to all that about purposes and plans and looking ahead. That's book stuff. Just trying to put the old scare in me. Forget about it. Now what's the matter? Can't I even build a simple table? I have to figure out how I want it to look and make a plan for building it. Let's see. There. That's the way I want it to look. Now I have to figure out just how to make it. Length, width, height. That's better. Now I've done something the way it ought to be done. It started to shape up as soon as I made these sketches. When I saw how I wanted it to look and made plans for building it. Plans, sketches, measurements. Wait a minute. That's what Don was talking about. That's what I have to do with my own future. I've got to look ahead and imagine not what it will be like if I just keep drifting, but what I want it to be like. Hello? Oh, hello, Dad. Fine, thanks. How are you and Mother? Great. Say, Dad, you'll want to know. I've been elected chairman of the community club. That's right. Will you and Mother be my guests at the club dinner? Good. Mary and I will expect you. Yes, I want a future that's something like that. I want to be happy, be somebody, have a good job, friends, a home, a wife and kids. But how do I get there? If that's my purpose, how do I reach it? How? Detailed plans of how to achieve my purpose. And I'd better be getting at it right now. I can write them down, add to them as I go along, change them even. But the important thing is having plans, plans to work with.
Yes, Nick is learning the importance of looking ahead. He's making some decisions about the kind of future he wants and some plans to reach it. Nick wants a happy home life in the future. So he is finding out how his own family works right now and why it gets along so well. Nick wants a successful vocational life. So he's getting some idea of the kind of work he wants to do. And he's studying harder to bring his grades up. And Nick wants a rich social life in the future. So he is learning how to get along with people better. Because now is the time to start working on the plans you have made to achieve happiness. Having a purpose or goal to plan for has given new meaning to everything that Nick does.
Hi, Nick. What you doing? Oh, hi, Don. Hey, that sure looks great. Thanks. It's fun to do things that come out right. How about playing some ball this afternoon? Boy, I'd like to, but I have a date with a guidance counselor. Want to talk over some different kinds of work in engineering. Then there's the math club meeting. After that, Bill and Ed and I are having a bull session on chemistry. Then I have a date...
Okay. Boy, you sure have been going places lately.
It's easy, my boy. You've just got to do a little looking ahead.
Now that you've planned ahead, that should just about do it for today's episode on how to be successful. I thank you for watching this latest edition of How to Live. I'm your professor, your PhD, Joe Gigliotti. I thank you for tuning in. Keep it simple. We'll see you next time.